I think we should start. The others would just be joining in a while. So a very pleasant good evening to all of you who have attended this webinar. Hope everyone is doing safe. Great pleasure to invite you into walking into 2021 with a new resume, guys. And fortunate to have three great speakers with us. Dr. Smita, my colleague and chair of the Human Resources Department at Flame University. Smita comes with a great corporate background in consulting, and then she's like she moved into academics from a consulting background and did her doctorate with IIM Calcutta, and now she's with us as the chair of the HR department at Flame. So, Smita, I would like to hand over the session to you. But just before I give it, just a quick heads up to everyone who's attending. You have a Q&A box that you will see on your screens. Please feel free to ask questions to all the panelists here. They will be taking up the questions as and when they feel the need to pull out those questions, as well as towards the later part of their program. So Smita, going over to you. Thank you, Sahil and Ritika, both of you. Smita.
Yeah, thank you, Neeraj. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us in this webinar today. Hope you all are staying safe and taking care of them. Now, the topic of this webinar is walking into 2021 with a new resume. Sorry about my voice if you go away. Now, why is this topic important? It is important because we know that the COVID-19 pandemic is going on, and we know what kind of disruption it is bringing across different organizations, across different industries. And it raises questions about what kind of expectations organizations are going to have from their employees going forward. So keeping this in mind, we have invited two eminent HR professionals with us in this webinar today to share their thoughts on the corporate perspective. So on behalf of Flame University and the student community, I would like to extend a warm welcome to Ms. Ritika Sakhuja and Mr. Sahil Nayar.
Thank you.
So, thank you so much for having us.
Ritika? Yeah, thank you. Ritika is Director HR and Talent Acquisition Leader at Nielsen. She has a rich experience of over 16 years across companies like Genpact, CPA Global, Kantar, and Nielsen India. She holds a Six Sigma Green Belt and specializes in areas like strategy planning and organization capability building, talent management and succession planning, leadership development, change management, and negotiation and conflict management. She has done her post-graduation from IIM Calcutta and a graduation from Delhi University. Moving on to our next speaker, Mr. Sahil Nayar. Sahil is a Senior Associate Director HR at KPMG. He's responsible for managing the employee lifecycle for the tax practice. He's a certified MBTI and NLP practitioner. He specializes in building an employer brand that helps to attract the right talent to the organization and leverage that talent in the most optimal manner within the organization. He has done post-graduation in human resource management and marketing and graduation in management and law. So Ritika and Sahil are heartfelt thanks for agreeing to participate in this webinar and share their thoughts with the students. Now, for the students, during the course of the webinar, we would request you to keep posting your questions as they come to you. We will take the questions towards the end of the discussion. So, moving on to our discussion, we all know that COVID has affected the way employees do their jobs. In course of time, it can also affect the job itself and the kind of processes and technologies so employ the job. So this scenario is creating a lot of uncertainty in the minds of students who would be getting into the job market in 2021. They want to know how they wish to prepare themselves. So Ritika and Sahil, what advice would you like to give them?
Okay, Sahil, you want to go first?
Do you want to go first?
Okay, I can. So when you talk about preparing for jobs for 2021, I would say preparing for jobs for any year will pretty much be the same when you're going job hunting. The basic process of job hunt and looking for opportunities which fit your skill set, whether you're a student, whether you're not a student, whether you're a working professional, the process steps remain pretty much the same. You know, you look for a job which are matching your skill set, your aspirations. Sometimes you want to be innovative about looking for the kind of job that you may not have done in the past. You want to experience doing something different. You want to do a career change. Specifically, so like I said, the basic process of job hunt or looking for a job from a student perspective will remain the same. What it will require right now for 2021 will be a little more than just hunting for jobs. Will be a lot of patience, will be a lot of perseverance. Networking is something that we always do when we are seeking jobs. So we continue to build networks, but here we'll maybe need more networking, more pressure networking, more creative ways of networking. People have started using, and it's been a while actually, people have started using social media for looking for jobs. So continue to do so. Also for now, for coming future, we are looking at virtual way of recruiting, hence virtual way of building your resumes. So maybe create e-resumes, which are those video resumes for yourself. An important point to remember for students always, and when I go for recruitment in universities, I look at sometimes lengthy resumes, sometimes very crisp resumes. So always a crisp resume is good for somebody who's a fresher, who's not got a lot of experience backing up. So keep your resume crisp, keep your resume relevant to the type of job that you're looking for. A recruiter, when they do head hunting on job boards, when we look for candidates for a particular job, we have keywords which are specific and must needed in our job descriptions. We hunt candidates based on those keywords. So while building resumes, if you're interested in a particular role, if you're interested in a particular industry, and you do have skill or aspiration to be there, ensure that the keywords match the recruiter's search. So your resumes will be picked up much faster than those who will not have those keywords. Also, while it's going to be tough looking for jobs in future, be realistic and be very truthful in your resumes, in your profile. So don't make up things because that's not going to land anyone anywhere. Be realistic, be truthful, what you have and what you aspire to do. The journey is not going to be very easy. I know you've had probably a few more webinars in the past where you've spoken about people are telling you, and I heard that from your professors, that people are telling you things are going to be really difficult, really difficult. Yes, they are going to be difficult, but there's going to be a way out as well. We'll all have to hold on and wait and watch to see how right now the pandemic situation goes down. So health comes first while we prepare for the next year. So that's a very broad message on preparing for looking for jobs from me. Sahil, over to you to add.
Great, Ritika, thanks so much. At the onset, I'd like to thank Flame, Mohit, and the entire team at Flame. I know we've been in touch for the last 3 years, and we haven't got a chance to really interact with your students, but I think the whole lockdown and this whole virtual connect made it possible. I was planning to come to Pune a number of times, did end up coming, but didn't end up coming to Flame. So thank you everyone for having me with you today. I think Ritika has done a fantastic job as a subject matter expert to deep dive very quickly into the solutions of what could be quick hacks for each one of you. But I want to take 2 steps back, right? And maybe get a little into storytelling to let you guys know that if I have to draw an analogy with the current situation and walking into 2021 with a resume, I pretty much agree with a lot of what Ritika has said, but the analogy that I want to draw is typically walking into 2021 with a new resume is like what I call tough love, right? We all have gone through that stage in our life where we find someone very nice, we take up the courage, we walk in, we talk to that person, we introduce ourselves, we go through those lovely days, which are the initial days of getting to know each other. Everything is flowery, everything is lovely, everything is beautiful. There's love in the air, there's sunshine every day. But all of that's not going to happen in this age and time. So you're going to fast forward to moving into that space which I call as tough love. And that's the current situation that we are in. So if you look at the relationship between an employer and a candidate, or an employer or an employee, you're typically in the zone of tough love. And tough love essentially is all about dealing with ambiguity, dealing with unpredictability of your partner, dealing with a situation where you don't really know what's going to play out, because three or four broad aspects. One, you don't know what the future of jobs are going to be like, right? So as much as we as HR guys can crystal ball gaze and say, oh, World Economic Forum gives you this analysis, these are the kind of jobs, these are the kind of skills, believe you me, ask any CEO in the world, ask any CTO in the world, ask any change management expert to draw up a change management plan and say, I want to reduce pre-COVID, I want to reduce my real estate costs, and I want to get 50% of my employees to work from home. Everybody tried it out. No one was successful. What really got us to working from home was a pandemic, right? And at that point of time, employers, employees, the ecosystem, everyone said, it's all right if you don't sit below my nose and work, as long as you're productive. Work from wherever you want, work from your home, be safe, go back to your hometown. It is all right. And that's what I typically call not the new normal, which McKinsey coined a couple of decades ago, but the next normal. So I don't think that you guys are in a position where you need to worry or be anxious. You definitely need to be realistic for sure, number one. Number two, an opportunity like this comes once in a lifetime. And I think so you as a batch that's really passing out, or a batch that's in the first year, has a fantastic opportunity to make it big. Ritika has given you a couple of hacks, but what I'm going to really tell you is three things. One, be absolutely comfortable with ambiguity. So how do you really build skill sets? You will build digital skills, you will build design thinking skills, you will build skills around analytics. All that is fine. That is anyway a given, it is core. You will do your MBA from Flame, fantastic. That is like a BCom of a decade ago. But what you need to do is, number one, be comfortable with ambiguity. Number two, have the ability to think and work on your feet. And number three, be flexible. I had someone reach out to me on LinkedIn yesterday saying, I really want to do marketing. Marketing comes naturally to me, but I've got a role in sales. I don't feel like taking it up. And my one single line submission to that individual on LinkedIn was to say, my dear friend, you have a choice. Make that choice today. You can start off with a brand on your CV saying you did sales 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, and you transcended into marketing. Or you can keep sitting at home cribbing and crying that I didn't get what I wanted, and you can keep searching for a marketing role, which there is no surety that you're going to get anytime now, sooner or later. I wish you all the best. I hope you get that role in marketing. But if you don't, why are you so hell-bent towards sales? I've been visiting a lot of colleges over the last couple of decades, and I see many of us, including me, I'm not saying it's us versus them, including me, we were very, very rigid to say, no, I will do only this. I am not open to going to Hazira and working. I don't want to work at a plant. I don't want to do a field job. I think it's high time reality has hit us in our face. Let's drop all these inhibitions. Let's pick whatever comes our way and make the best of it. And as things improve, as things open up, as the economy opens up, of course, if you're brilliant, roles will open up for you. But don't sit on a high horse. Get off that high horse. Ensure that you build all the skills, all the hacks that Ritika has spoken to you about. If you already know of them, fantastic. If you don't, we'll spend some more time doing a deep dive, sharing our perspective with you of how you can really make inroads. But with those opening lines, back to you, Professor.
Thank you, Sahil. So that gives a very good overview of the discussion. Now, moving on, I would like to ask you something more specific, which the students will be interested to know. For example, so as of now, at the management level especially, the skills are the most important thing. So from the skills point of view, what do you think these students should try to acquire in the next 1 year, which will make them more prepared?
Sure. So I think, we've typically, what I've really studied over the years and being a student of psychology, I think we have a natural preference to one side of the brain, right? So each one of us generally, I'm generalizing here, is attuned or has a bias towards either the left brain or the right brain. And, as is known, we keep building on our strengths and try and camouflage our areas of development and don't take significant leaps in that direction. I think with the whole way and the manner in which the world is changing, there is a significant need for corporate India to look at sustainable organizations. And sustainable organizations will demand a balanced mind. And a balanced mind would demand a good balance between the left brain and the right brain. So you have to be high tech, but you have to be high touch, as cliche as it may sound. You have to have great amount of passion, but equally high amount of compassion, right? And how do you really bring that to the forefront in whether it is you pick up recruitment, whether it is learning and development, whether it is anything in the HR space, even if you're doing marketing, right? How do you optimize cost spend versus how do you optimize ROI on the spend, right? Even if you're looking at finance, what's the fixed derivative that you're really looking at in today's times? What is ensuring that the two emotions that rule the stock market, be it fear or be it greed, find balance? And can you get an algorithm that can really define whether you put money in a debt fund in today's time, a balanced fund, or an equity fund, right? So pick your area of specialization or interest. But my only request to you is, if you innately know that one part of your personality is very strong, use the next couple of months to significantly up your other part of your brain so that you have a very, very balanced personality and you're able to look at things a lot more holistically rather than just focus at the lowest bottom of the pyramid, which is a skill enhancement. That, to my mind, is anywhere given, but I'll let Ritika add more to that.
Thanks, Sahil. I'll again go one more step. So Sahil's given you a bigger picture. I think that's his forte, to give you a bigger picture, to tell you what works from a left brain and right brain perspective. I'll give you another one level down in depth practical trick when you talk about skills. Your students, you'll be looking for job. You'll go headhunt. You'll think about what works best for you. What's my area of interest? Am I a creative person? Do I want to do art? Maybe I'm studying management, but maybe I want to do art later. Maybe I want to be a techie. Maybe I just want to be an accounts or a maths or a number person. Maybe I want to be a data scientist later. So that's something that's based on your personal choice. But again, a trick to understand what skill will be in demand in 2021. For you to do so, go to job boards, look for the kind of jobs that will be posted and published. Just a trick, right? Sahil's smiling, but that's a trick. So you will know what kind of jobs are up there in the market, who's hiring, who's not hiring, what kind of opportunities are there for me, what kind of monies they are paying. You can start marrying your skill to what's available in the market and what's trending in terms of jobs. So if you look at today's day when we are locked down, what are the essential services that are running well? So there's medical, there's education, and there's food. There are only three things which pretty much haven't stopped, and technology maybe. So all the tech tools, the robotics, they're doing well. So it's a handful of things which are doing well in this scenario. Think through in 2021 when we evolve, and right now none of us can predict what will happen. But you will have to make a well-informed and look through decision based on data, based on what's published out there on job boards, on LinkedIn, what kind of companies are, evolving in terms of skills that we are looking for. As a data scientist, right now, everyone's talking about data. Right now, everyone's talking AI, everyone's talking virtual reality. We don't know what's going to happen next year. So keep your eyes and ears open. Follow these tricks to look for the kind of roles that are available in market, because eventually, you will use your left and right brain to think through what's best for me, but it has to translate to getting jobs. It has to translate to getting a career. It has to translate to getting money back home. So do use these tricks when you're looking for jobs as well to help you. So I think we've weaved both the messages together, Sahil's overall thought process message and then looking for a job message.
Wonderful. If I may just come in very quickly, Ritika, thanks for that. I think so it's a very beautiful blend that you brought together. I really want to make this very interactive, right? So, and I know in the whole virtual scheme of things, we can keep talking, and the multiple students who've joined us all across will feel just as one-sided communication. So, if you all can use the chat window, which is active for you, I'm going to ask you a very, very elementary question, which is going back to school. Which is about looking at what is the 4-letter word that connects 2 dots. What is the 4-letter word that connects 2 dots? Everyone in the chat, if you can go onto the chat and tell me, what's the 4-letter word that connects 2 dots? You guys have access to the chat? I hope they do.
Sahil, they have access to the Q&A. I think they're putting in their responses on the Q&A tab.
Okay, lovely. Okay, they don't have access to that. Okay, so I have Ishika writing, Sushmita writing, Sindhu writing, Mahima, Trisha. Fantastic. Okay, everyone's got it right. Pooja, Nagaraj, I wonder why you have a question mark after that, but the answer's right. It's a line. Okay, so a line connects 2 dots. And now you have a choice, like I mentioned earlier on. You can either draw a line and stay within it as a boundary, or you can draw that line and cross that line saying, this is the place I want to cross. Going back to exactly what Ritika said, which was so powerful, to see what is it that is working today? What are the jobs available today? What are the essential services where people are hiring? That is one choice you have, right? And you can say, okay, this is an avenue or a playground that I can play in. The second choice you have is to say, listen, this is only myopic. This is 6 months, this is 1 year. But what is it that is going to come up and hit us 2 years later, 1.5 years later? And if you can predict that or get your fingers on that and build your skill set so that you actually command the premium by the time you pass out, that is brilliance, according to me. That is actually saying, just imagine, very, very simple example. People knew lockdown 1, lockdown 2, lockdown 3, lockdown 4. People who studied the whole world knew unlock will happen. Sometime or the other, unlock will happen. What did some masterminds do? They went and bought IRCT shares. And that stock price went up and hit the circuit not once, hit the circuit twice. And people made crazy amount of money on that stock. If individuals are brands, and each one of you on this webinar is a brand, how do you identify what are those lovely white spaces that you can enter in and command a premium? I've been hearing this for a very, very long time, saying, oh, but I haven't passed out from an IIM, but I'm not from an IIT, but I can't command a premium, but I will get only what colleges come to my campus. Now with COVID, colleges will also not come on campus. You can think of all of that on one side. On the other hand, you can say, I'm going to build this, as Ritika mentioned, couple of the skills, couple of the job roles. And as I build that, I'm going to network with people on LinkedIn or other forums and put across my candidature. And believe you me, even if there are no roles, over a period of time, roles will open up for niche skills. The question is, do you have those skills? Let me give you one classic example to make it tangible for you and not sound very Gyanish. This was around 9 months back, 2009, late 2019. A friend of mine was looking for a data scientist who actually had done a lot of work on actuarial sciences in the insurance space and around mortality, and great amount of deep design thinking, because that whole space needed to be re-looked at significantly, and that person was not willing to, wasn't able to find anyone. And he said, Sahil, I'm willing to pay a premium on this particular skill set, but it's just not available. So now can you really figure out what is it that is happening in the world? What do you think will be a need? Where will organizations be willing to invest? And thereby, through your process of networking, connecting with people, build those skills. But back to you, Professor.
Yeah, thanks, Sahil. I think that is a different perspective which the students may not have been aware of till now. I'm keeping my video off since I think there's a problem with the voice. Okay, so my next question is, I would ask this question to Ritika first about what kind of attitude students should have when they are looking out for a job in this uncertain situation. Because till now, there has been an attitude about getting what you want, but now it's not going to be safe. So what changes they should bring about, what personal development they need to do to be more adjusting to what the environment is providing right now? Ritika?
Yeah, thanks, Smita. When you talk about attitude, I think the first word that I would want students to hear is positive. So at this point of time, it's very important to remain positive. So have a very positive attitude and positively oriented mindset when you're hunting for jobs. This is a time where you will feel very vulnerable. You will feel confused. You will feel scared. You will have all those emotions, but have a very positive attitude when you go for jobs. No matter what happens, no matter how much hard work you'll do, you'll see some people making it into jobs faster than the others. Some people getting, higher packages than the others. You will have some companies give more money, some companies give lesser money. Not each one of us will have the same career journey, and that's always been the case. Not all students from one campus or not all students who score the same score in a school or in a class will have the same career journey. So don't change your attitudes based on what's happening with others. And I would want to sort of quote a couple of things. I was going through this book. It's called 12 Rules of Life by Jordan Peterson. It talks about, it says an antidote to chaos. One of the things one of the rules that book has says compare yourself to who you were yesterday and not to someone else who someone else is today. So compare yourself. Put yourself your benchmarks for you and not put yourself, compare yourself to others. So it's an important trait to have when you're looking for jobs. Another one that it talks about is pursue something that is meaningful. So pursue something that is meaningful to you, hence you will have the right attitudes. When you look at, so that's an internalization of attitude. Now the second part of attitude is what organizations will look for from students when they come for looking for jobs in 2021 after you guys graduate. What we look for from students will pretty much remain the same in very many ways. Now, what will change will be what we look for from employees overall, whether they are students or whether they are not students. But what can give you an edge over others is be future ready. When I say be future ready, right now we've already started working in the virtual world. We've been working in virtual world for almost 3 months now. There are barely any lines of timeline, 9 to 6 working hours be available for things that you have to tackle or work that you have to tackle, because you have to bring in that money in the organization right now. The organization needs you. It's not a stage where students usually hear, I will work only this many number of hours because, that's what my job role is. So those lines have started to fade away because the times are tough. It's the worst hit recession to us. The organizations need all in. If we need that number of hours extra, then we will have to willingly give it. So that attitude of thinking for the organization is one change we all will have to bring in when we go looking for our first jobs. I know it may not come naturally to you all your students. You've had a nice, college life is very different than the corporate life. So you wouldn't have experienced that sort of a corporate. I don't know when you guys start jobs if you'll still remain virtual. So we may have different kind of way of living and work, but discipline will be very important then. So an attitude of discipline will be very important from students when they start their jobs. When you have to log into the system, be available on chats, on emails, be connected, be there available for communication. So don't take your jobs or your careers for granted, because I'm only going to work 9 to 6 because that's what I'm paid for. We've changed that. It's not I'm saying that everyone will expect it, but we are happy that we have work. We are happy that we are working that many number of hours in a tough world where we hear millions of people losing jobs. So it's going to be a tough world out there. The attitude should be out there in a war zone. So be a warrior, be a fighter for the company, ensure your company sails through with you. So that's what I would want to say in terms of attitude. Very positive for sure. Whatever you're doing, if I were to, I hope everyone understands Hindi. So whatever you were doing, you should do dil se, and the organization will see it. So if you're using your heart to do your tasks, if you're putting your heart and soul in your jobs, the organization will see it. And while you're in the selection process, and you're not faking it in terms of interview. So don't let your interviewer feel that this student is not made of what that person's talking of. So be very honest, be very real, and take that attitude. The organization will take you in for who you are at that time. Sahil,
Thanks, Ritika. I think that is very, very useful information for the students. Coming from you, I think that will have a lot of value. Sahil, what would you like to say?
Sure. So, Smita, I think the way we look at this is, I mentioned a little bit about it earlier on, but I think we need to be very realistic to understand which phase we are in, right? There was a time when there was an employer's market, right? The last couple of years, it was an employee's market. So an employee would typically dictate what kind of compensation the person wanted, what kind of ESOPs, depending on the seniority, the way things played out. The economy boomed. Individuals also boomed with the economy, and it became an employee's market. At that point of time, typically we've seen a lot of people have immense amount of attitude, right? And the attitude then with people who had niche skills, who were commanding a premium, was to say, attitude is mind over matter. I don't mind and you don't matter, right? That was the kind of narrative that many individuals had towards organizations. We've seen individuals trying to be larger than the organization or larger than the organization brand. And eventually we have also seen what has happened to those individuals. Today, we are in a space where it is neither an employer's market, neither is it an employee's market. If you go back to economics, it's particularly just the flat line, and we're trying to see how we flatten the curve on a very different angle. But at this point in time, I would say, if you ask me very clearly, what's the attitude that students should have, which is what your question was, of course, apart from what I said, which is a positive attitude, I think it's extremely important to be curious. It's important to be very, very curious to figure out what next, because no one knows what next. And try and do a little bit of, looking into the future in your own small notebook and see how much of it really comes out true. If you're not very comfortable, don't go out there and make predictions because you're not an astrologer. But sit down in your own small diary and write down stuff, and write down 10 things a day of what I think will happen tomorrow. In fact, that's something I do very closely. And again, not sounding pessimistic, but I was just saying, no one ever thought of a World War IV, a World War III, whatever, happening as a bio World War, right? And this is a World War of sorts, but it's a bio World War. And I was just thinking, flirting with ideas in my head to say, what if the next pandemic is a pandemic where internet goes off for the next 3 months? Just imagine, right? So today we are saying that organizations, social distancing, everyone's working from home, all IT companies are booming, net has been stepped up, bandwidth has been stepped up. But just imagine tomorrow if someone finds a hack that the internet, the World Wide Web, the internet across the world goes off for the next 3 to 6 months. That will really force each one of us to reboot. And then the whole concept of a migrant labor versus an intelligent labor who's come from the hinterland of India to large metros to come and work will actually get on the same page. Because where are you going to get the money from? Where are you going to work? How are you going to deliver with no internet, right? And if that's the next pandemic, I don't have an answer. I'm being very honest about it. I'm not saying I know it all. But if there's anyone on the number of students that are on this webinar, if they have an answer to what is the solution for the next internet pandemic, brilliant. Organizations would be willing to pay you, or countries would be willing to pay you crazy amount of money to solve for it, right? So can you start playing with such ideas, and it can be any idea that's on your mind, and start thinking of possible solutions based on the skills you have. So I think the whole ability to be extremely curious is very important for one. Number two, Ritika spoke about positivity. I think, and this I love watching every time, which is the pursuit of happiness, right? So if you remember the dialogue there where he goes in for an interview, he says, I don't know it, but I will learn it and I will do it, right? So if you had that I will, I can do attitude, I think, right, Ritika mentioned, organizations will respect you for who you are and what you bring to the table. And the attitude of saying I will and I can will surely hold you in good stead.
Thanks, Sahil. Though I think we are all scared of the internet pandemic, which will be the normal 2.0. God forbid it should not happen anytime soon. We are too much dependent on internet right now. Okay. My last question is, so there are a lot of students who do not have experience and they are very unsure about what kind of line they should get into. So they are as open to marketing as to HR, for example. So any advice you would like to give them?
So choosing a field, I think we've already pretty much covered that when we've spoken before in terms of skills required for future, be future ready. Sahil mentioned about how do you think about your left brain and right brain, and think through what skills. I mean, these are just two lines that you're talking about, Smita. If you look at the kind of types of work each one of us can do and what's happening in the world, for us to pin down and say, okay, I think you should do this, it will be my personal perspective. I'm a creative person. I'll say, go for art. So it may not work for everybody. So it's not the, one size fits all. So you will have to look at your aspirations. You will have to look at what is it that drives you. An important way to think about what drives you, and I will definitely not point at one type of task or type of industry to look at, because that's just not right for me to do for students. I would say step back, stop and think what kind of work that you would like to do for years. It will be really boring also. So there are days when you walk into work, an office, and 9 hours of sitting inside office doing same type of work every day for a few years or years to come, it becomes difficult. And people who continue to be in same fields or doing same type of work, they keep looking for something that keeps motivating them. Otherwise, the day doesn't pass. Day doesn't pass, you will not be able to perform, you will not be able to grow, you will not be able to be an achiever, you will not be able to be an outperformer. So if you want all of that, choose something that drives you every day. So whether it's sales, marketing, there are a zillion options. So I can't even, like I said, I can't pen them down, but choose something that will drive you to work every day. If there is offices, hopefully soon we will have offices back in our lives. So there's something that drives you to your office or to your laptop every day. And with the same motivation and drive, make you work every day. So choose what's your calling. Also, what's important for students to know is that at early stages of your career, you may end up making the wrong career choices. And that's something that we've seen, and I can actually talk about in confidence to students, is we've seen students choosing the right types of jobs and then realizing that the performance is not up to mark on a particular job. And sometimes that happens because it's not my calling. No matter how hard I'm working to achieve my targets, I'm not able to do it. I see people working 8, 10, 12 hours, but still the output is not what you would expect, because that's not that person's calling. So if you've made a wrong calling, and that may happen to many of us, so if you've made a wrong calling, it's all right to pause, stop and think, what can I do? If not this, what else can I do? What else excites me? What else encourages me? What else can I learn or add value to myself? So it's okay to pause and think. And I said this in my last webinar to other students as well. It's absolutely okay to change your career and field altogether. So if you hear about me, I'm a trained and qualified interior designer. I studied interior design for 3 years as well, which is something that's not mentioned in my resume anyway. So I did that along with my graduation. But then I realized how the markets were, what my calling was. HR happened to me, and here I am. I've been in HR, I don't know for how many years, I can't even count now. So you do realize your calling, but if I look at the arty side of me, I still have those creative skills. I still use my art. I still use it as a hobby at my home, to decorate, to design. So that, these are some things which are your calling. You know it's something you want to do. You may not want to do it for your career. So you want to be a techie, but you choose an HR career, and then you realize, oh, this is not something that's working for me. I'll just close it all together, do something else. And it's okay to do that. At the starting years of your career, it's easier to find jobs which are relevant to you if you change completely. But yeah, so that's from me on choosing the skill which is required or choosing the type of career or job opportunity.
Thanks, Ritika. I think that gives an excellent perspective on what students should do. So I will go to the Q&A session now.
Sure.
So one question is, so Dr. Ganesh has asked this question. After lockdown, it is very difficult to get jobs for experienced guys, those who had lost theirs. What type of preparation they have to do? So Sahil, would you like to answer that question?
Sure. So, Dr. Ganesh, I don't know the reason why the individual would have lost a job. In these times, there is a combination of reasons why people are losing jobs. But 2 or 3 broad factors, right? One, of course, the economic viability. 2 is the whole redundancy that is getting camouflaged in the whole economic viability. And 3, most importantly, is the fact that value add is typically not coming in, right? And when there is pressure, of course, organizations will find ways and means to look at that and deal with the pressures on hand. So I think understanding the reason for the loss of job is important. If skill set is not an issue, a value is not an issue, and cost is not an issue. And in fact, many of you all know Abhijit Bahaduri. He had done a post on LinkedIn very, very beautifully where he captured the whole concept of job losses during COVID. And he spoke about skill sets and cost on a 2x2 matrix. And when I read his post, the first thought that came to my mind was to say, fantastic. If the skill is not there, the cost is high, of course, it'll lead to redundancy, so on and so forth. But I told him, and I replied to his post to say, cost skill is a 2x2, but what I would superimpose is a 3D model, which would typically add value as well. Add value as one of the components, because if you're sitting at a high cost, a skill's not there, not adding value, probability is very, very high that you might end up losing a job. Coming back, how do you make a comeback, right? And I was in a session with Shiv Khera the other day where we were talking about how do you convert setbacks into comebacks? And that's typically where your question is. So you need to figure out if there is a significant need to up your skills. Today, it's not about just getting an MBA, doing a CLP program. It's about learning every day, and not just learning on the job, but learning through a lot of new different skills, which is typically the left brain and right brain that I spoke about earlier. So if you're skilled and if you've lost a job because of a certain employer or the employer's challenges, be rest assured you will get hired back, you will come back into mainstream because that skill will be relevant and you will get a prize for that skill. But having said that, I think it's also important to explore the whole gig space. And I think that's a brilliant space to explore, because with the way the world is changing, I won't be surprised today many organizations are building what they call the gig workforce within their organization to increase utilization of people, to ensure that people are plotted on various projects, to give them cross-functional exposure. But if you have the right skills and you want to be a gig worker, so to say, I think that's a brilliant space to be in. But the one caution that I would leave you with is you should definitely know how to market yourself. If you're not good at that, I think getting work and building a brand, a personal brand, will become a challenge. And in a country like ours, unless you're not out there, you're not heard. And if you're not heard, you're not going to get work. So I think that is important. I hope I've answered your question.
Thanks, Sahil. So there is a related question which has come up. It's very interesting question. I think we all have this question when we check our LinkedIn feeds. So there is a race for certifications. Everybody is getting certified on something or the other, be it hard skills or soft skills. So now what should, so now when everybody is getting certified on different platforms, how can students compare themselves with each other, and how do they know where they stand? So this is the question which has come up. Ritika, would you like to answer that?
Sorry, maybe I didn't understand the question very well. It's saying, how do you...
So the question is that, so how do they measure their capabilities when they check their LinkedIn and see that, the others like them are getting certified as fast as they are?
So when you say certified, you mean additional qualifications?
Additional qualifications through different, online learning platforms.
Yeah, so I had mentioned, I think that question came when I spoke about don't compare yourself to others, set yourself,
Yes.
Your own thresholds and benchmarks. I think it's connected to that. So yes, you should, I mean, if there's a person who's in my college, in my class, who's had 10 more certifications than me, does that mean probability of him or her getting the right job or getting the right compensation is much higher than me? Maybe not, because certifications are not the only way the organizations will look at selecting candidatures. We will look at what is it that you bring in terms of value add to the job that we are looking at. So are you the right candidate for the job? If you have 10 certifications which are not relevant to the kind of job description that you're applying to, then it doesn't matter. So if you compare yourself to others with 10 certificates but not relevant to the job, it's just a count. So look at yourself, making yourself relevant to the type of roles or type of jobs that you're looking at. That's it. I know this is the time where everyone will preach you and talk to you about add more skills, add more learning, add more certification. Do it in a wise way, because it's not that 2021 recruiters will go hunting for those who have 10 additional certifications only because we think this person used their time well. We know it's tough time. We all know how the markets will work. We all know what's going on. So don't add useless certifications. I'm using a harsher word, useless certifications, because you don't want to just add those 10 numbers there. I did a Harvard 30-minute online course. Great, Harvards are really good. So do them, but make them relevant to yourself also. So just don't keep adding valueless courses to yourself. Make them value add to directionally where you want to head. That's it. So you will stand out anyway. It's not that, that 10 or 50 number of certifications will only help you stand out.
Smita, if I have your permission, can I share my screen very quickly? It's exactly on the same point.
Sure.
Yeah. So I just wanted to share my screen. I don't know whether if you guys can see my screen. It's just going to come up in a minute. Can you guys see my screen?
Yep.
Yeah. So in fact, if you just look at this, 1 week back, I had done a post on LinkedIn, and the post is right in front of you, right? So we have reached a time where knowledge is free, but a certificate to prove you have completed a course is paid for. I didn't take names of organizations or learning associations, but that's what I really put out there. And this is exactly what Ritika spoke about, right? Where's the relevance? Where is this whole need for us to start proving ourselves and willing to pay a certain amount of dollars for a certificate that we can put on LinkedIn to just show we have a course? And when Ritika or I or anybody else spends time having a discussion with you over an interview table, there's nothing left. There's no essence. And that to me is a bigger failure than actually doing a course, gaining the knowledge and not having a certificate, which is equally fine. So I think so we need to find that balance of saying, you figure out what you like doing, figure out what is going to be relevant, but don't really go onto the bandwagon of really chasing certificates and paying money for certificates because it's going to make your CV look good or make your LinkedIn profile look elaborate, when at the end of it, you don't have the substance.
Yes, Sahil, I think that is very important for the students to understand, because given the situation, I think people have gone into a panic mode. So this is important information for them. Okay, one other question is, what should students do to avoid rejection at the screening level? Because, you know, a lot of times they get rejected and they don't understand why they have got rejected. So is there any specific reason for which that happens? Can they do something about it?
So I can take that. When you talk about resume screening, when there are various levels of screening. So if you're talking just about resume screening, or rejection post interview. So there are two levels I can talk about when you talk about rejection of candidatures. Resume screening, I spoke about. You may not get to hear feedback on resume screening because there's a recruiter sitting somewhere who's screening your resume, picking up 10 relevant resumes out of 100 that they've downloaded based on keywords. So you may get rejected because you don't genuinely fit sometimes. We just mindlessly apply for jobs where we don't know whether we will fit in or not. And we get, as recruiters, we get so many resumes where I would say you don't even match basic qualifications. Why would you apply? So the level of disappointment that you will have will be higher if you do mindless applications, thinking that maybe my resume will fly. That doesn't really happen. If you're looking for a particular skill set or a particular education, if I'm looking for a BSc IT for a role, I have reasons to look for a BSc IT. It's not because I fancy BSc IT as a course. So do apply to roles in a thoughtful way. Don't apply mindlessly, because the rejection ratio will be higher and you will never know why the recruiter did not pick up. So basic logic is, if the job description is very close to what my resume looks like, then yes, please go ahead and apply, and you will have higher chances of being shortlisted. When you talk about rejection of resume or rejection at the time of interview, or when I say, or you would say rejection or not getting shortlisted post interview, as a recruiter, whoever, or interviewer, or a hiring manager, whoever's interviewing you, ideally when we talk to hiring managers and we tell them, and you will see the straight and experienced hiring managers, you may see some non-existential traits and non-experienced hiring managers as well, where they will not give you a good closure at the end of the interview. A good hiring manager will always tell you, how will our interview process be? What will we do in this 1 hour, 30 minutes that we are meeting you or speaking to you? What will the flow be like? And at the end, we'll also tell you something about what to expect in future. Should you expect a feedback from us? Should you expect to hear back from us? In how much time will you hear back from us? Who will get in touch with you? There are more specifics that hiring managers usually get into post-interview. If they do not, which is also very high probability, I'm not saying we're living in an ideal world where hiring managers know what to do. They mostly don't follow what's expected. So as an interviewer, as a candidate, you have all the right to ask the hiring manager, how do you think this conversation went? Don't feel scared asking that question. You may not get an answer on your face. Sometimes hiring managers need to step back and think, evaluate more candidates and tell you. They should openly be telling you that. Saying that, I have 10 more candidates who I've interviewed. I'm going to get back, and these are a few things that I'm looking for this job. So we will let you know how you fared. Or sometimes some hiring managers who are very confident, who know how to give direct and right feedback to candidates there, and then which is the best way to conduct an interview, is they will tell you, hey, listen, you know what, I was looking for these must-have things. I do think you fit in. I do think you do not fit in this XYZ. So we may not go ahead with you at this point of time. It takes courage to give that feedback from a hiring manager on the face of a candidate. So you may not hear it in so many words from hiring managers, but you have the opportunity and right to understand, and that will help you understand how to prepare for future. That will help you understand, what do I need for this type of job what did I miss? And you don't just go back thinking, oh my God, this manager doesn't know what he's looking for. We just kind of think we interviewed with a stupid hiring manager. But that's not the case. They also may somewhere lack confidence in telling you a feedback upfront. So you be confident enough and asking. And in a lot of the campus interviews that I go to, students actually get up and ask before leaving, saying, how do you think my interview was? And you feel nice when a student asks you that question. You're like, oh, you're confident enough to ask me. I appreciate that. So we won't mind it. We appreciate you openly asking us, what is it that you missed, or what do I need? And post the process of recruiting, when when companies come to you for recruiting, we actually encourage your placement coordinators to pick feedback of what went well, what did not go well for a particular student, to give that back to you, so that you are better future ready. You just use that feedback to equip yourself for future. Yeah, I hope I've answered the question, Smita.
Yeah, yes, Ritika, thanks. So there is another question from Sindhu. Is it better to look for internships instead of a job? But due to the current situation, there are not much opportunities available. Or if not these two, is preparing for masters an advisable choice? Sahil?
I think it's very, very individual specific, right? It really depends to say, do you want to be in the ring or do you want to be outside the ring? The choice is yours. And next week I'm going to be doing a session. I don't like doing sessions on cliche topics, and therefore when Mohit came across to me to say, let's do something at Flame, I said, instead of just doing crystal ball gazing, which is going to be playing with variables, let's talk about constants, right? Which is what Ritika has spent so much of time, and I've tried to really spend time with you. I think if you want to be in the ring, which is what I'm going to be talking next week on, saying getting HR inside the WWF ring, right? So that is why that's the HR piece. I think for students, the choice is yours. If you want to really build skills, don't look at it as a job or an internship. I think as long as you have something where you can work on something meaningful, that is practical, that is not academic, that is a live project, even though it may be a virtual live project, gain the experience. Try and push your boundaries to actually do work which is on real live projects. It will really help you. If you believe that you want to do a master's, there's going to be still some time till you go through the entire process. Pick up a project. Nothing really stops you from doing that. Do live projects while you do your master's. But if you want to do master's, you need to think of it. Why you're doing your master's? Where are you doing it from? What area of specialization or field do you want to do it from? So I think there are two mutually exclusive things, because doing a full-time master's versus doing an internship or a job. But I would just say, don't sit at home and twiddle your thumbs. Get down to doing stuff, whether it being studying, whether it being working, depending on what life stage you are in, what you like to do. Pick that up, but get moving. That's what I would say.
Thanks, Sahil. So we'll just take one question now. It's from Ankita Sharma. So she is asking, how hopeful should we be for campus placements in 2021? Ritika, you would like to answer that?
Very hopeful. I'm a very positive oriented mindset. And I know that we will fare through. This is the worst recession ever. We all know that. But it also means that if and when the businesses do pick up, where would the organizations invest in terms of bringing in talent? Do I want to bring in more senior folks, more managers, more leaders? Maybe not, because I need more manpower to do work which really matters at that point on. So we may need, lesser on the hierarchy angle. We may need lesser top level people. We may need more manpower when we talk about students. So be very positive, be very hopeful. Yes, one thing that I would call out is be agile and flexible. Don't think that if my university, my campus, or my kind of education has had, these kind of graduates in the past getting jobs with, a high-end organization with an X million dollar packages, we may have to make those compromises. We may have to make compromises on what we are getting. Just grab something that fits your mind, that fits your aspiration, and get going and see where your career goes. So change jobs a little later, but get hold of what comes your way. and go on with it. So yeah, organizations will invest on entry-level talent. So be positive about it. I am positive about it when it comes to Nielsen. I'm sure Sahil, you guys also are looking forward to making plans. In fact, for my technology business unit, which is in Chennai, we've already started making campus recruitment plans for next year. So we do have hopes of coming back with maybe the same number of recruits. We had actually increased our number of hires from campus, and that's what we do every year. We were exponentially increasing the number of hires that we had from campus because the experience was so good to bring in freshers. So hopefully same number or more. But yeah, I think entry-level jobs will have to come back for sure.
Okay. So will it really matter whether people have prior work ex or not? What do you think?
It's always a add-on bonus, depends on the type of work ex you have, whether it's relevant to an industry that you're applying to. If you've worked in customer service, but you're applying for, a business development role, you may not have a relevant work ex. But if you have relevant work ex, it always makes a difference. Yes.
Okay. But there will be jobs available for freshers too.
I'm very hopeful and kind of sure. Like I said, that we will. If I look at just headcount planning or staffing or management for an organization, HR leaders or business leaders will look at staffing in right. Not, like I said, not keeping yourself top heavy. So yes, freshers will definitely have opportunities.
Okay. Thank you, Ritika. Thank you, Sahil. With this, we come to the end of the webinar. We have short the time limit by 2 minutes. Yes, Sahil?
Extremely conscious of time, and I know we have a couple of minutes. So with your permission, can I share one last story as we wrap up? Yeah?
Sure.
Great, wonderful.
Yeah.
So I think we started the conversation with tough love. I'm going to go back to a lot of what Ritika mentioned and try and tell you something. I wanted to come in when she spoke about that example, but I thought maybe I'll save it for the end as a story. So this was a story about 4 of us, almost 18 months ago, Friday evening, sitting at one of the bars in South Bombay. Very, 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 very hectic week, almost working 14 to 16 hours that week. And 4 of us decided to really let our hair down that Friday evening. And we said, you know what, we're just going to really just have a nice time, enjoy ourselves, be ourselves. We really slogged it out through the week. And before we receive any rewards, recognition, in whichever form or shape it comes, let's do our own small party. So we went out, we started drinking. Let me give you a little bit of persona of the people who were there. So one friend of mine, extremely intellectual, right? So he would be like the most intelligent person in the group, but very shy, very quiet, wouldn't really talk too much. Another friend, he's absolutely entrepreneurial. So while he's doing a job, in every project, he starts thinking from a very business mindset to say, oh, how will it work? How do I make money here? How does this project work in that way? So entrepreneurial mind. He always likes picking up a lot of new projects, gets bored very easily, very high risk-taking ability. The third friend, she's pretty much like Ritika, very, very creative, very, very loves art, but in the HR space and doing a lot of good stuff in HR space. But her whole inclination is, how do I make this more creative? How do I make this look more good? The presentation needs to be well packaged. So she has that kind of a persona. And the fourth is in front of you right now. So 4 of us really went 1 drink down, 2 drink down, 3 drink down. So we look at, so let me give names, right? So entrepreneur, shy, creative, and Sahil. Okay, so let's keep it that way. So entrepreneur, creative, and Sahil look at each other and we say that, Mr. Shy, he's very shy. We don't even know who this guy is, right? He's just so shy. He only talks intellectual stuff, cerebral stuff. But we've spent a couple of years working with him. We don't know who he is as a person. So we all just make eye contact and we said, he's the bakra for the day. We got to get him drunk. So we start drinking slowly. We get him more drinks. He's 6 pegs down, okay? And then he bangs his hands on the table a little aggressively and says, I want to share something with all of you. And we said, wow, we've almost got there. We're going to get him to speak now. He starts off sharing his story. So he says, I've been on Tinder for 6 months. And I've been swiping right on every single profile. I exhaust the quota that I have every day, and I have been swiping right and not a single match. And you guys are my closest friends, and you guys really need to help me. So all of us rally around him and say, of course, we'll help you, Mr. Shai. Don't worry. It's okay. It happens. We know you've been single for a while. We'll be your wingman, wingwoman, whatever. And then we get on to asking him a little bit of difficult questions. We ask him that, okay, so you swipe every profile right. And I would request you to keep drawing examples to what Ritika said, to say if the employer is looking for a BSc IT and you're applying with a skill set that you don't have, I want you to keep drawing that in your mind as you keep listening to the story. Otherwise, it'll just be a good story you heard without being able to relate to it. He said, yeah, because for me, anybody is okay. I just want to be with someone. I don't want to be alone. So we said, okay. Then we really asked him to say, fine. So what is it that you really look in do you read the bio? Do you see some stuff? No, I only look at the picture. If the picture looks nice, if the girl looks nice, I swipe right. I said, but you also said you swipe on all profiles. She said, yeah, because more or less everybody looks nice to me. It's okay. So the guy was all over the place. It was a mixture of him being a little happy, high, and him trying to be honest as well. Fast forwarding the story, as we really got into talking to him, we realized that the biggest issue with him was not about him not understanding people or getting it right or swiping right. His biggest issue was what he had put in his bio, because of which he never got a match, right? So we started the next day, we went back to office, we asked him, do you remember the conversation last night? On Friday, we got together. Monday, do you remember the conversation? So bits and pieces he remembered. We said, okay, now we're going to work on a project. So we have these things where we create project plans. So we created a WhatsApp group of the 4 of us, and we created a project plan for him. And we actually got into all the finer nuances of saying, how do you change your profile picture? How do you change your bio? How do we get you connected through various other apps and not just one app? And within a month, we got him on a couple of dates. The interesting part is when he started getting rejected on those dates. Now, this is where you look at an employer-employee or employer-candidate kind of interspersing. And the kind of introspection he did on himself to say, why is it that things are not working out? Where is there a massive disconnect between what I'm thinking, what I'm saying, and how is it making the other person feel? And I think so it was a wonderful thing. All of us in the process, the 4 of us, learned so much about human behavior, human dynamics. And we all got to know each other so much better just because of Mr. Shai. And today, Mr. Shai is married. He has a young child, which is just born a couple of days back. And when we couldn't really go to the hospital and all of that because of the whole COVID thing, but when we got onto a Zoom call, just really sharing, we went back to that Friday and we had just so much of fun coming together, right? So all I'm trying to say is, long story short, take that moment to get to know. You can't do it by yourself, no worries. You are 120 people on this call, all batchmates, all your professors. Take that time out, get to know them, speak to them, figure out what skills, get some help. Peer-to-peer learning is the best form of learning. Do that, inculcate that, work together. I think Ritika and I are available. It's not just one webinar or 1 hour that we are with you. We're available on LinkedIn. Feel free to reach out to us. I'm taking the liberty of saying it on Ritika's behalf, but feel free to reach out to us at any point in time for any help that you need. We'll be more than happy to connect with you, help you out. But yeah, as far as I'm concerned, I'll make a personal statement. If anybody who writes to me saying, I need a job, get me a job, I promise you right here, right now, I will not respond. So I will teach you how to fish, but I won't really fish for you. So if you want to build skills, you want to figure out what to do, how to do, we'll be more than happy. But if you're going to come out straight there and just say, listen, I want to get married to the girl you meet the first time, the girl's not going to say yes. So with that, thank you so much. It was a wonderful time being with you, but back to you, Smita.
That's a wonderful Saturday evening thought that you're leaving everyone with.
Yeah, thanks, Sahil. Thanks, Ritika. I think it was a wonderful story, and it ties what Ritika said with the story very well. I think the students will remember the story and the message for, at least months to come. So with this, we come to the end of the webinar. And once again, I would like to thank Ritika and Sahil for sparing time from their busy schedule and sharing their valuable insights. I'm sure all of us found session very engaging, very interesting. And I hope we all will take something from this webinar. So all the best to the students, and don't worry too much. Be realistic, balance your right and left brain, and go out to the market and be confident. So the skills are required, the right attitude is required. It's not that things are impossible, things are difficult, but if you take the right steps now, you will be with the job which you want 1 year down the line. So on that note of optimism, thank you everyone and wish you all the best. Over to you, Neeraj.
Thank you. Thank you, Smita. Thank you, Sahil and Ritika. That was a great session. On behalf of Flame University and all of us, all my students and all the large number of participants who were here, a great thank you to Smita for conducting this, and to our two experts for the day, Sahil and Ritika. To all you attendees there, you might want to join us on our Connections webinar series, which we have mostly every Wednesdays. The next one is on 10th of June. And also for those of you who are more interested in the management side, we have something called as a masterclass series, where we talk about an online learning suite for executives and our students. So please do join us for these classes. Series is here. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful evening and a great weekend ahead. With this, thank you.
Thanks everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much, everyone. Bye-bye. Have a nice weekend.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Yeah.